Welcome everyone to this webinar on unifying and orchestrating your CyberArk estate at scale. My name is Paul Baas. I'm the head of sales here at Ignimission. And today we're going to look into how organizations can unify their CyberArk estate at scale, how to orchestrate the identity lifecycle, and how to be always audit ready. A few words on Ignimission for those who don't know our solution or our company. Ignimission is a software company and long-term CyberArk Palo Alto Alliance partner. We have a strong common customer base with CyberArk as we work with some of the largest CyberArk accounts and provide two offerings in the identity space. One application is focused on identity discovery, risk analysis, and remediation for the broader identity scope, IGA, IAM, access management. And the second application is focused on accelerating success of privileged access management programs in CyberArk environments. As a CyberArk technology partner, we've helped dozens of CyberArk enterprise customers over the years deliver on this promise of scaling faster without having to expand your team, orchestrating the privileged access lifecycle, and providing full visibility into your CyberArk estate, as we will demonstrate in a few minutes. But before showing you how this works, let's have a look at the privileged access lifecycle and the different activities that can be orchestrated and automated with Protec. First, Protec will detect and discover the different assets and privileged accounts across your data sources. That can be Active Directory, a CMDB, maybe another type of database for network devices or other files. Then Protec will help establish the owner, which is useful for stakeholder dashboarding as well as for recertification purposes. Protec can also automatically onboard assets and accounts to your vault in two ways: in a self-service way, so delegated to people who don't know about safe names, platform IDs, etc., or fully automated from the discovery data. So this is another major use case as it accelerates the adoption and the success of the CyberArk program. Then with time, accounts may run into errors or compliance issues. Protec can automatically detect, classify, and remediate on these issues. You can also run recertification and, of course, automate the offboarding and the decommissioning process on once the privileged access is no longer required. So let's go back to the main points we'd like to discuss: unifying CyberArk at scale, orchestrating the identity lifecycle, and always being audit ready. So what the Ignimission Protec application actually does is federate multi-tenant CyberArk Cloud and self-hosted identity fabric into a unified governance and automation plane. In terms of business outcomes, that means diminish threat risk, reduce the cost outlay by eliminating labor-intensive tasks, and also ensuring you are always audit ready across the entire enterprise. Now, let us look what these three elements, unifying, orchestrating, and being audit ready, actually look like in the solution. When we look at the first promise to unify CyberArk at scale, some environments are complex. Sometimes there's multi-tenants, sometimes there's multiple vaults, thousands and thousands of accounts to manage, and in some cases, millions. So some of our customers are in this case too, but the majority manage between 10K accounts up to more than 1 million. So as soon as you install the application, you will be able to set the connectivity to your different data sources: CyberArk, AD, CMDB, network devices, databases, and other sources. And Protec will start discovering the privileged accounts and assets. And all of these standard dashboards that we have in the governance pane will start to light up. So I'm going to show you a few of them. So let's look at this health check. So the idea is that you have full visibility on everything that's happening in your vaults. So here you can, if you have multiple vaults, you can select the vault, so you can filter all this data on the vault, or per business service, which is like a perimeter. So it can be an application, a specific team, region, or maybe a regulatory framework. So these dashboards that we have here, and this is the example of the health check, they are fully dynamic. So if I see issues here, 138 issues, all I have to do is click to see what is happening with these accounts. What are the issues that they have? And if I click on a specific account, I can really see a 360 view on what is happening with that account. So it's very dynamic, clickable, drill through. I can see who has actually access to that account, and I can see the activity. This is a demo environment, so there's no activity, but I can see everything that's going on around that account. Now, when we look, for example, at safe members, this is another kind of dashboard. So you can really see all the permissions for each of the safes in a very simple overview. So I'm going to show you this here. Then if I go on the left, if I click on safes, I can see, for example, for each of the safes, who has access to the safe. So let's take this safe as an example. So I can see full safe details, and I can see who has access and in which way. Is it a nominative access, direct, or is it maybe by group? So these are some of the standard views, but they can be adapted to your requirements in two ways. So the first is really, if I go back here to saves, for example, the first is the ability to set all kinds of filters and rules here and save them as a new view. And the second part is by using our drag and drop studio to build really fully personalized dashboards. So let me look at another one of another reports. Let's take this one about business services. So these are the different scopes, the different teams, and this is how you can show across Vault, across your environment for each team, for example, what has been onboarded, the number of assets, but also it will calculate a specific risk score regarding the accounts within that scope. So everyone that connects to the portal that's in SAP Finance will maybe only see what's happening within their scope, and senior management will be able to have an overview of the different teams and see exactly where the critical risks lie. So we can go into the exact details of how this scoring, for example, comes about, but we will do that a little bit later when we speak about how Protec helps large CyberArk customers to pass audits and be compliant. Now, the big takeaway from this section is that you will have complete visibility on everything that's going on in your environment, and according to the stakeholder that connects, they can see exactly the perimeter, the views and indicators that they need. I'm going to go into the automation part. So this is really about orchestrating the identity lifecycle. So when it comes to automation, let's go here. Most organizations will already have some automations in place in the form of scripts, but generally they still require a lot of manual actions. These are often error prone, but also one of the challenges with these in-house built scripts and automations, instead of using an industrial application, is that it's difficult to maintain, to evolve, and sometimes only one or two people know how it works. So as the business logic is hidden in hundreds of lines of code, it becomes difficult to control and audit. So let's see what a more industrial automation could look like. So here we have the workflow. We call it boarding order, but it's basically can be an onboarding workflow, an offboarding workflow, remediation workflow, it doesn't matter. So I'm going to give an example here for onboarding a new asset. going to call it test, and I'm going to select one of the workflows that I have configured. So no coding, no scripting, that I've configured beforehand. So this one is called Onboarding Airbag. So a role-based access control onboarding. I'm going to launch this workflow, and then I can say, okay, which assets do I want to onboard using this workflow today? Here I can select a new assets or a new product that I want to onboard. And then I'm confronted with some attributes to fill out. So non-technical information, allowing you to delegate that to people in the organization that don't know all the technical details about CyberArk. So I'm going to fill out some simple attributes. This is a pre-production environment. The application is called yellow. I'm going to do this for the region Italy, technology, and maybe you want to have different variants of the workflow. So here I have simple and complete. I will show you later what that means. So I'm going to validate that, approve it. But what you have to know is now I'm in a self-service mode, but actually it can also be delegated directly to an API. So as soon as the workflow is set up, it's available as an API too. So I'm going to validate that. Okay. And so now you can see what is going to happen when this workflow is launched. Sorry, I'm going to the actions that are going to be taken in this workflow. And you can see that with only adding a few attributes, safe creation is done, respecting your naming convention based on the attributes and the codes that we've set up. It will create a number of AD groups for each role. It will create the safe members. Maybe you want to do a reconcile, or maybe you want to interact with another system. You can basically make these workflows as simple or as complex as you want so that they completely align with your needs. Then once the workflow has been launched, so there is a status, so we can add approval steps to this workflow, or we can fully automate it. And then, of course, how do we set up these workflows? So this is an example that I've set up before, but let's look at how easy it actually is to define these boarding order flows, as we call them. So I go into settings, configure your flows. I'm going to take the same example that I used just now. And here you can see what it takes to set that up. So first you define the attributes that are required, including the code for the naming conventions. Then you define the scenario. So in my case, it was a simple or complete. So that means that according to the information that's keyed in or sent to you through the API, a different sub-scenario can be launched. So I'm going to look at the complete one, and there I can see all the actions, and I can go into detail about how they are being set up. So no scripting, only drag and drop coding, meaning that you can have massive onboarding, no more errors, full visibility, a complete audit trail, no manual interventions, and the application works 24/7, so remediating any errors or compliance issues. An important way to automate this onboarding is to look at the assets. And as you can see, once the assets are detected by Protec, it will automatically calculate an asset lifecycle. So that means it will see if the asset is missing in the vault or maybe present in the vault, but no longer in the source. And it will automatically launch an onboarding or offboarding scenario accordingly. Next part I'd like to show is the automated remediation. So I'm going into remediation management to the left, and here I can see some remediation scenarios. Now, what is a remediation scenario? It's basically a workflow that I've configured, any type of workflow, which I apply automatically to scope periodically. So every day, every week, every month, as you like. Here I have an example, for example, remove inactive users. So my scope is any user that didn't log on for the last year. It's scheduled to run every month, for example, and the workflow that it joins with, that it launches, is this workflow remove inactive users. Another example are CPM errors, so we can detect the error family type, and here we have a timeout error. So the scope is all the CPM errors where the error type is timeout, and I will launch a workflow, I think, every day or every 24 hours, I will launch this workflow to automatically remediate on these errors. Same with external asset onboarding, where the scope was asset status is missing in Vault, so present in the source but missing in Vault. I will automatically launch this scenario for automatically onboarding the external asset. So this remediation part saves a lot of time and manual work. It reduces errors and it makes you more compliant. It runs 24/7 without you thinking about it. So this works across CyberArk Vaults as well as the ecosystem. And so we have plenty of connectors like AD, IGA, ITSM, CMDB, etc. in the marketplace, or you can build them yourselves with the connector builder or integrator. So we have a lot of connectors and you can build your own connectors very easily. So here we have an example of integrations that you can build. I can select, for example, the CyberArk integration and I will see all my actions. If I go, for example, to add save, here I will see exactly the setup. And this works like Postman, basically. So it's very simple to create new connectors, create new actions, to integrate with your CyberArk ecosystem, Active Directory, IGA, ITSM, anything that you want to communicate with. And then the other part is really defining workflows. So you can set up workflows here with the integration builder as well, where you can have actions, you can create specific conditions, and it's a drag and drop interface basically. So let's go to the next part, which is to be always audit ready. So instead of taking weeks to prepare the right documents, you are always ready for any kind of questions from auditors on your PAM estate. So I showed you earlier in the governance part that we have a business services report, where for each business service there is a risk score that is calculated. So if I go, for example, to the Linux team and I'm going to click on this risk score, here you see all the KRIs, and these are basically your compliance controls. So inactive accounts, accounts with password expired, etc. There's a whole list of them that comes out of the box, but you can configure new ones if needed. And these controls give a total score. So there's a weighing that you can apply and set. And that means that you really have full visibility per scope of how well the controls are respected, what the scoring is. And you can even go a step further and aggregate these scores into a specific dashboard for a compliance or risk framework, which I will show you here. So for example, here I have a risk framework based on CIA. I can see there is a business service with a high impact and a critical score. And if I click on it, I go back to that Linux team. So you can really create high-level views based on your own regulatory frameworks or risk frameworks. So any kind of framework can be integrated, can be SOX, can be NIS2, or anything you want. And in real time, you can show the auditors the situation. You can also drill down into the details. So if I have a critical risk score, for example, these accounts with password expired, I just click on the details and I can have, again, my 360 view on the accounts, and I can see exactly where that applies. So, and if the auditors ask, so where did this data come from? So you have the settings of the tenant logs. You have the logs of the tenant settings. And so what does this bring you in terms of auditability? So there's no need to prepare for audits. You're basically always ready, and you can provide access on the fly to the auditors so that they can see for themselves what is happening in real time on your controls and your different indicators and how you are improving. So we've shown you how Protec can be used to unify CyberArk at scale, orchestrate the identity lifecycle, and be audit ready. Before we go into the questions, I would just like to point out that this is not a complete demo of Protec's capabilities, but it does give you a first flavor of the solution. So thank you very much for your attention watching this webinar. And if you have any questions or if you'd like to see more about Protec, don't hesitate to contact us at the email below.